Why did this Lillie card go from this price to this price? And why did this Erika card go from this price to this price? Well, in today's video, that's exactly what I'll be exploring, as well as whether these Pokemon Waifu cards can ever recover from the deep pit that they're stuck in. Let's get straight into it. Hey guys, it's Pokemonster here, and in today's video, I really wanted to discuss something that's sort of gone under the radar in recent months, which is the absolute slow death of Japanese waifu cards. Now, if you turn back the clock to about a year ago, these were the absolute hype cards that everybody wanted, sort of doubling, tripling in price within the space of a week or so. But since then, they've taken a huge fall from grace, and in today's video, I want to explore exactly why that's happened, because exploring why it's happened will also tell us whether there's any chance for them to recover in the future. Finally, I'll just round up the discussion to see what this teaches us about Pokemon investing. In terms of what popular female trainers there are in the Pokemon franchise, just to name off a few examples, we've got the Erika, Iono, Lillie, Marnie, Skyla, Lisia, a lot of trainers, and a lot of these cards used to attract huge values. But first, let's take a look at how much they have dropped. So guys, as I'm jumping into today's video, I want you guys to let me know what you think about waifu cards. Let me know in the comments, do you think these are good cards, investable cards? Will they go back up in value in time? Secondly, for some of the screenshots that I'm going to be showing you guys, I want to give a shout out to Legendary Mewtwo. Check out his Instagram. He's a huge waifu card collector, but a very genuine one. So starting with the Lillie Clefairy full art, this is a very high population card. As you will have seen in that sold listing from last year, Legendary Mewtwo sold his for £1,500, which is going to be 1800 1900 US dollars. Compare that to today, it's £281, £233. So let's say around 300 bucks, I would say tops, which is a wipe off of about 80% in value, just ballparking it. Very quickly, this was probably the highest value waifu card alongside with the Acerola from the extra battle day. So these were very rare low pop tournament prizes. As you can see, the price for that, and credit to the Find card on Instagram, has dropped for a PSA 9 from 43k to just 7,877. Now, if you look at the number in isolation, it's still an extremely high value card, but we're just looking at the percentage drop of 82%. Without a doubt showing that these cards have highly dropped in popularity. Next, I want to be talking about the Erika from Tag Vault. Again, credit to the Find card, but slightly ironic this picture, because this picture was produced at a time when the hype was in full swing. So you see 29th of January 2023, Erika from Tag Vault selling for $312 US, and on the 12th of June selling for $2,340. So if you chart that growth from January to June, about 6 months, it grew by close to 8 times. Now let's take a look at what that card is worth now. As you can see, it's absolutely crashed in price to even below the 312 that I was showing you on the screen before. This is an absolute fall from grace from what I think is actually a very pretty trainer card, and for an actually, I should say, a legit trainer that has a lot of history behind her. So we have the Hex Maniac, which was again one of those highly sought after cards, but from the XY era. So it's going to be slightly lower in population than some of the Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield cards, selling for £1,802, which will be around 2,300 US dollars. Now, when you look at the one beneath it, it's actually done all right. We can't really verify whether that was a true sell or not. But what's for sure is that at the height of its popularity, this card was going for way more. Like, I remember it going for at least 5 to 6k. So even the XY or slightly lower pop waifu cards have dropped significantly in price. Then we have the Marnie, which was probably going for about £2,000 to £3,000, which has dropped to just £255 and £400, £330. So let's say ballpark 400 to 600 US dollars maximum compared to what it used to be, which would have been, you know, $3,000, $3,500. And this is a figurehead, so to speak, of the Sword and Shield era of trainers. It's got a lot of similarities to the Lillie from Moon base, because it is again in the base set of the new generation. So I think people maybe see it in the same light as the Lillie, and it is without doubt that Marnie is a popular character. And finally, let's look at some of the newest generation's trainer. So going on to the Miriam SAR that people thought probably was going to be the equivalent of the Marnie from Shield base. It's selling for about £200-ish, give or take, and that's even accounting for the fact that Violet base has just had a reprint. And finally, let's look at the top waifu card from Scarlet and Violet, to my knowledge, and that's going to be the Iono SAR, which is going for £376 or $450 ish. So just taking a look at the last solds to verify that, we have a little bit of variance compared to what I just showed, but still in that $350 $450 range. So that's the Iono SAR, and both of these cards were previously 4-figure cards. Now, they might not have stayed in that 4-figure zone for a long time, but looking at this, it's certain that there's been a huge drop without doubt. So really what we need to get into in today's video is why these cards crashed and what we can learn from them for Pokemon investing. Now, there isn't necessarily a single core reason that explains the entire crash for every single waifu card from then to now. So some people will say that a lot of Japanese stores were perhaps manipulating the market at the time because PSA cards were just about reaching their peak in popularity there. Japanese stores produce these buy lists. There's nothing to stop them from upping the buy list or lowering the price on the buy list at a certain date to cause a reaction in the market. And in many ways, some people say that's what they did, right? These famous big stores were upping their buy list prices for various waifu cards, and that led to a psychological reaction from people thinking, oh, it's actually going up a lot, maybe I need to get on it now or I'm gonna miss out forever. In part, some people would argue that that did create a bit of FOMO, but even before then, waifu cards were slowly building up a bit of steam, and I would say that they were steadily rising over the years despite the fact that people did not pay attention to them at all before. And that's possibly one of the biggest things that I want to talk about as to why the price crashed, is because in my view, the demand for these waifu cards was inorganic. And inorganic demand, i.e. not genuine demand, or people who are buying this card not genuinely being interested in the character, can cause short-term frenzies, but over time it does even out, particularly with cards like these modern waifu cards. Just taking the Clefairy 381 SMP card for example, that one is close to 8,000 in population. The Iono, I'm pretty sure, is about 15,000 in population. So these are not low pop cards, so once the demand for them started to wane after the mania stopped, I think that's what caused a huge part of the crash. The way I think about this to myself is Iono and Miriam, so let's take a look at those pictures again. So what I never really understood when looking at cards like these and why they were reaching 4-figure prices was this is a brand new character that you don't have any attachment to. Miriam is the school nurse or one of the teachers in the academy of Scarlet and Violet. So you've known her for like 2 months and you're willing to put down 4 figures for it. Compared to a established Pokemon like Pikachu, Charizard and Umbreon, this Miriam was fetching higher prices than cards like that from previous generations, and that just did not make sense to me. So it really goes down to whether people have a genuine interest in these characters, and the question that I was asking myself is, how can people have £1,500 level of interest in a character that's just been introduced in the latest game that people don't know at all and who barely plays an important role in the game? Now, when you compare that to an Erika, I can understand why Erika has higher value sometimes, because Erika is an established trainer who has appeared a lot in the anime and in the general Pokemon lore, because Erika is a gym leader from Gen 1. So where a trainer has an established history and possibly fan base, or Cynthia for example from Gen 4, that makes a bit more sense to me. But for these ultra modern and new trainers like Miriam and Iono, I really didn't understand it. Now some people might say, Pokemonster, it's not just waifu cards that have crashed in price, it's all Japanese cards. And in some ways those two are linked together. But just to illustrate the point about genuine and organic demand, let me show you the example about 2 cards from Tag Bolt. So first we have the Erika from Tag Bolt, which as you've seen from the previous sold histories was going for about £1,500. last year, and now it's going for 143, right? Now let's take a look at some other cards from Tag Bolt. Taking a look at the Pikachu and Zekrom alt art, two extremely popular Pokemon. Pikachu, obviously the face of the franchise almost, and you look at these solds, you know, I had one for 390 pounds, they're 517 pounds, so that's about 3 times as much as the 143 that's shown here. I can guarantee you that at the peak of its popularity in the Japanese hype of 2023, this card at most would probably have been worth around the same as the Erika from Tag Bolt. And this is where we really can illustrate or distill what's genuine interest and what isn't. It's from the fact that although this card has dropped in price, it's dropped a lot less than the Erika from Tag Bolt. That to me tells me that the interest in this Pokemon card or this Pokemon tag team was always more genuine than that one. Indeed, as a collector of Sun and Moon alt arts myself, I want this card way more than the Erika from Tag Bolt. And it's not just this card that's worth more than the Erika from Tag Bolt now. Taking a look at the Latias and Latios, the figurehead for Sun and Moon alt arts, still 1,363 pounds. Now looking at some other sales, a little bit lower, but look at how much less it's dropped in price compared to the Erika from Tag Bolt, and that's where you'll really be able to distill what is and isn't a genuine interest in something. And given that the franchise is all about Pokemon itself, although trainers are important, it makes sense to me that these Pokemon cards, these alt arts, although they dropped less than waifus. And that also explains to me that the reason why waifus crashed so much is because a huge proportion of the people that were buying into waifus were not necessarily people who were genuinely attached to the trainers. When push comes to shove, if I have to sell one card out of the Erika and the Latios, I will always choose to sell the Erika. And I think that's really the core explanation, aside from market manipulation and economic situations. The genuine interest in the card is really what has caused the crash in waifu cards. So very quickly, what this tells us about Pokemon investing is be really careful when things are getting really heated up in terms of hype, and this doesn't just apply to these waifu cards, it applies to all the Japanese alt arts in 2023 that crashed, as well as all the Sword and Shield English alt arts that went up massively in a similar pattern to these waifu cards, but this year. And now you can see that they're slowly retracing. Now, there's plenty of content creators out there that have covered the fall of English alt arts, so I won't go into it in detail here, but the lesson for Pokemon investing is when these cards or when a certain group of cards is going through a hype period, really try and distill certain factors in your head to see whether the price of the cards is justifiable. So moving on to whether I think waifu cards will stay at their current low prices forever, or is there any potential for them to recover in the future, let's take a look at perspective, okay? If you spend a lot of money on these waifu cards, the current prices are not necessarily a bad thing. In my opinion, the prices of these cards is a lot healthier than it used to be. It feels like there is still a core of collectors that have a genuine interest in collecting these cards, and that's what the prices currently reflect. Furthermore, it's not all doom and gloom, right? Like I talked about the Lillie from Battle Day, it's still a $7,800 card in APSA 9. Even with the Iono SAR, I showed you the sold listings. Unless I'm mistaken, correct me in the comments, remains the top chase card in terms of price that you can pull from a set in the Scarlet and Violet era. So it's not all doom and gloom. But I do think that waifu SV cards are holding up reasonably well in value and reflect what they should be worth a lot more realistically than what they used to be. Now, the one thing that you need to remember about SV is it put waifus at the spotlight of the sets. Pokemon has carved out some specific chase card slots now in SV sets where you will get waifu SAR trainers. Looking at Pokedata.io, it's not all doom and gloom. Now, we know that Japanese cards are in the gutter at the moment in terms of prices, but if you look at the top cards from each set remains a waifu card. Admittedly, this LAKEY SAR looks very good. I'll always pick the Terapagos SAR though. So Stellar Miracle and a lot of SV sets still show that the waifu remains the top chase card. Now looking at Mask of Change, it's the same principle reflected again. Perhaps you could say that the Pokemon SARs in this set are a little bit weak. Still though, the Carmine is the top chase card in this set. Finally, even the Dendra SAR from Triplet Beat seems to remain the top chase card from this really undervalued set, but that's a separate point, I won't go into it. Top chase card remains the Waifu SAR, so perhaps this is a healthier reflection of where these cards should be. Looking ahead into Paradise Dragona, there is a Lisia trainer card, which means that we might have a Lisia SAR. But at the core of it, I do think that waifu cards are more healthily priced at the moment. Ultimately, I do think that there is now more room for these cards to grow just because of how far down they've dropped. In my opinion, of course, not all waifu cards are going to go up a lot. If you apply a similar set of analytical factors to investing in Pokemon to waifu cards, for example, the popularity of the Pokemon, change that to the popularity of the trainer, the population of the Pokemon versus the population of the trainer. If you start applying those factors, I still think there is a good opportunity there given the current prices. So disclaimer, I do not own this card myself, but I've always thought that Erika is perhaps one of the more justifiable high price ticket items, particularly from Tag Bolt, which just like Team Up is relatively rare compared to today's Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield cards. In my opinion, I can see this Erika card going up in the future again, taking into account the fact that a Tag Bolt booster box is over $500. This is a really nice artwork as well, and it's not going to be as high pop compared to the SV cards. In my personal opinion, I do expect that the cards will not explode again overnight anytime soon, particularly given the interlinked situation of Japanese Pokemon cards. So that's all I got for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you did, and happy collecting.